Here you are talking about do not punish the children for the mistake of their father. You know what I find crazy about that part of the comment? Is that in real life, when we make mistakes and we hurt other people, we apologize. But this guy is talking about 400 years plus worth of mistakes that till date we still haven't gotten an apology for. They don't even call it a mistake. They are very proud of what they did for that 400 plus years.
Colonization was a good thing they did, a good and noble and courageous thing. It is good that it happened, and we should be grateful for it. It was heroic.
Slavery, but I think we're illogical if we didn't realize that a lot of Black people enjoyed being slaves.
Actually, what we can say is that we'd all end up worse. All of us today would be in a worse spot if slavery never existed at all across the entire globe.
And they are still very proud of the things that they are doing today in 2023. Them that we have today are not different from their ancestors, because they continue to uphold the systems that their ancestors put in place, the systems that exploit and subjugate other people, put other people in disadvantaged situations, just so they can be the advantaged ones. They continue to uphold those systems. But you see Black people, African people come online and call these things mistakes. Who commits 400 years of mistake? Who? These people committed a premeditated crime against humanity. This is how long the Berlin Conference spanned for. From November 15, 1884 to February 26, 1885. About 3.5 months. These people sat down for 3.5 months and they planned all of the crimes that we saw they went out and committed against humanity. And during that time frame, 3.5 months, none of them came to the realization that, oh, this is wrong. We probably should not be planning to do this. None of them. This is me putting this issue into perspective. So let us let it sink in. That for 3 months plus, a bunch of grown-ass men who are supposed to know right from wrong sat down and planned the most heinous of crimes, the most evil, the most diabolical of crimes. They sat down and they drafted it out and said, yes, this is what we want to do. And they went on and did exactly that. You want me to believe that these men all mistakenly traveled from their different countries and then they mistakenly gathered in Berlin, where they mistakenly sat down for 3 months and mistakenly planned how they were going to commit all of those heinous crimes against humanity. And after mistakenly having this 3 months plus conference, they mistakenly went out and intentionally, mistakenly committed all of the crimes that they had planned in their conference that they would commit. All of this happened mistakenly. Do you know how evil you have to be to plan such a crime in 3+ months and in no point in time come to the realization that this is wrong and choose to disengage? Do you know how evil you have to be at heart? They knew what they were doing. It wasn't a mistake. You don't plan out a crime mistakenly in 3 months. If it was a mistake that, oh, they colonized people, they enslaved them, where is the apology for it? It's a mistake that they stole from these people. Why have they not returned the stolen goods? It's a mistake that they took lands from people by force. Why are they still the ones who are in possession of these lands and all of these things that happened mistakenly? They are not sorry. That's why we still have skulls of our ancestors in Europe. That's why they would never apologize, because they don't think they did anything wrong. And that's why till date we still haven't gotten reparation, because for you to pay reparation, you have to admit that what you did was wrong. And they are not ready to admit to that fact because they don't think what they did was wrong. And that is why our artifacts are still in their museums, because they are very much proud of their history and the things they did. They still till date bask in the glory of colonization. They hold onto those artifacts as trophies. They hold on to the skulls of our ancestors as trophies. They pass them back and forth from one another, selling them. They are very proud of their colonial past. As a matter of fact, some of them even want to relive those days. Some of them want those days brought back. When you wrong someone and you want to make it right, you start to, you peel it all back. Return what you need to return. Make the apologies you need to make. Pay those you need to pay reparations. And then we can move forward. But you've not done all of this, and then we should just all forget about what happened. And hell, let's not even forget about what is still happening, because they always like to talk about, oh, it's in the past, it's in the past. What is happening today? What is happening today? We saw what it be that we rename Macron talking about we need to protect the interests of France in Niger. Colonization, so-called, has ended, right? But France is still taking money year in, year out, $500+ billion out of the continent from its former colonies. Constantly are on the necks of African people, still exploiting them till tomorrow. But people want to tell me that the people, the white people we have today, are different from the ones that came 400+ years ago? That the ones we have today who do not care about what's happening to African people because, you know, they benefit from all of this subjugation, exploitation that's going on, so they don't care. They stay quiet like they don't know what's going on because they still benefit from it. You want to tell me that those ones are different from the forefathers that came and laid the foundation for all of this madness? And the human being in that comment section, he said it's a mistake. It's a mistake it happened in the past. It's a mistake we're still being exploited today. Oraimo called. Now here we're supposed to put buy one. It will reset the brain.
This week, I'll be doing a series on the top apartheid officials who quite literally got away with murder and were not held accountable once apartheid ended. This is a trigger warning, as some of the things that I'll be talking about have very graphic descriptions. It's also important to note that a lot of these people went on to live very regular lives as if they were not killing bodies for most of their professional careers. The first person we're going to be looking at is Dr. Wouter Basson, also known as Dr. Death. Wouter Basson headed up what the apartheid government called Project Coast. Project Coast was a chemical and biological warfare project that was aimed and targeted at the black population. In 1981, General Constant Viljoen, he was the head of the SANDF, approved a chemical and biological warfare project and appointed Wouter to be essentially in charge of the whole program. The program had 165 employees, 20 of which were scientists. Most of the identities of the people that worked on Project Coast are largely unknown due to the high secrecy level and lies that followed the dismantling of this project post-apartheid. Project Coast had two main objectives. The first objective was to create substances for crowd control to be used domestically for anyone who stood up against the apartheid government. Second was to fight Angolan as well as Soviet forces during the time. Wouter's main task was to develop chemical agents that could poison people and go undetected when an autopsy was done. He developed a range of powder and liquid chemicals that could be hidden in food, drinks, cigarettes, etc. A lot of what Wouter and the Project Coast employees worked on is still largely unknown due to the high secrecy of the project, which a lot of them will take to the graves and which some have lied about in court. Part of his job was also to collect information on what other countries were doing with their chemical and biological warfare. In the 1980s, Basson and his conglomerates were tasked with assassinating some anti-apartheid leaders. And although in his 1999 to 2001 trial, courts were not able to prove it, they were suspected of having tested a lot of their chemicals on prisoners. People who worked with him said that he had two main obsessions. One was the development of what he called the black bomb. Two was the development of a vaccine that could make women infertile without them even knowing that they were taking a vaccine to make them infertile. Part 2 coming.